He said the engine was dead, but his eyes lied. The sun was starting to sink when Jade spotted the silver Buick sitting still on the side of the highway, hood up, hazard lights blinking like a weak SOS. She slowed her pickup as she passed, then pressed the brakes. Most drivers wouldn't stop. Not in this part of Georgia, not for anyone, especially not for an old man sitting alone in a half-dead car. But Jade wasn't most people. She reversed, backed up along the shoulder, and pulled in behind the Buick. Dust kicked up in the orange light as she cut the engine. Jade stepped out in her faded overalls, her hands still greasy from the last engine. She worked on that morning. She tied her braids back and grabbed her small tool bag from the back seat. Something about the way the car looked, not wrecked but broken, made her stomach twist. The old man didn't get out. He just watched her in the side mirror, eyes calm. He looked like he belonged in a dusty library, not on a roadside in the heat. Thin white hair, wrinkled hands resting on the wheel, neatly pressed slacks, and a button-down shirt that hadn't seen dirt in years. Jade tapped the window gently. "Sir, need help?" He rolled it down halfway. It just died. Engine light came on, then smoke. "Pop the hood for me?" He didn't hesitate. She heard the click and lifted the hood slowly, letting the steam hit her in the face like a warning. The radiator hose had split clean across. Too clean, she blinked. What the— No way that tear was natural. It looked like someone had cut it with a knife. Jade frowned. This didn't just happen. She bent down and traced the edge of the hose. Sharp even, too perfect. A professional cut. Someone had done this on purpose. But why? She stood and looked back through the windshield. The old man hadn't moved, just watching her, calm, patient. She walked back to his window. "Sir, this hose has been cut. Did you have work done on this car recently?" He shook his head slowly. "No, haven't touched it in months." "You sure? Because this looks like sabotage." He blinked at her. "Sabotage?" Jade crossed her arms. "Someone did this on purpose." The old man gave a small smile. "Well, that's interesting." His reaction chilled her. Not confusion, not surprise, just interest. She turned away and got to work. With some duct tape and steady hands, she managed a temporary fix, just enough to get him a few miles down the road to the nearest gas station. "You're good to go, but take it easy. Drive slow and stop if anything seems off," she said, wiping her hands on her pants. He started. The engine. It purred too smoothly. She didn't like how easily it came back to life. "I'll follow you," she added. "Make sure you get there safe." He gave a small nod, like he was used to people following him, not leading. As he drove off, Jade got into her truck and followed. Her eyes stayed on his rear lights, but something inside kept bothering her. A memory just out of reach. Then she saw it. Something in the back seat of his car, catching the sunlight. A leather folder, thick and expensive-looking. She squinted, catching the gold lettering on the front. Marvin Hale. Her foot slipped on the pedal. That name. She knew that name. She scrambled through her mind, trying to remember. News articles, stories, old headlines. Then it hit her. Marvin Hale was a billionaire, a recluse, a tech genius. He had vanished 5 years ago. Rumors said he faked his death. Others said he was kidnapped. Some claimed he disappeared to escape enemies. But one thing was certain. Marvin Hale was not supposed to be sitting in an old Buick on a Georgia highway. The car ahead of her swerved. Jade's heart jumped as she watched it slide off the road and into the ditch. "No, no!" She braked hard and jumped out, sprinting toward the car. But when she reached it, the driver's door was wide open. Empty. He was gone. The leather folder lay on the passenger seat, and taped to it was a note. Her hands shook as she pulled it off, and read, "I knew someone would come for me, just not you." She stared, chest rising fast. Then a sound behind her. Tires crunching gravel. A black SUV had stopped on the shoulder, tinted windows. Engine running, no one got out. Jade backed away from the Buick, eyes on the SUV. Something deep inside told her she'd just stepped into something far bigger than she ever imagined. The man who vanished and the SUV that stayed. Jade stood, frozen beside the empty Buick, clutching the note with trembling hands. The wind picked up and blew her braids into her face, but she didn't move. Her eyes were locked on the black SUV, parked just 50 feet away. The engine was still running. The windows were too dark to see inside. Her instincts screamed, "Run!" But she couldn't just leave. Not yet. She stepped slowly back toward her pickup, heart thudding, never taking her eyes off the SUV. As she reached her truck door, the SUV's engine revved slightly, then backed up slowly and pulled away, vanishing onto the road without ever revealing who was inside. Gone, just like the old man. She climbed into her truck and slammed the door shut, locking it. Her breath came in short bursts, hands still gripping the leather folder she'd snatched from the Buick. She didn't even remember doing it. Her body had just moved. Now it was in her lap. She stared at the name on the front again. Marvin Hale. It still didn't feel real. She'd heard his name on podcasts, seen documentaries. The vanishing of Marvin Hale. The man who went from genius tech founder to ghost in one summer. FBI involved. His company folded. The media frenzy ended after 2 years when he was declared legally dead. And yet, here she was, holding something that proved he wasn't. Jade drove to the next gas station, hands slippery with sweat on the wheel. She parked in a corner away from the lights and opened the folder. Inside were documents. Dozens, most too technical for her to understand. But a few things stood out. A letter addressed to someone named Rayburn. A map with hand-drawn markings. Across the southeast, a worn photo of a woman, young, smiling with dark curly hair, written on the back in neat handwriting, "For Jay, when the time is right." Jade stared at the photo. For Jay. Her breath caught. Could that mean her? She shook her head. No, no way. She kept digging. At the bottom of the folder was a small flash drive taped to a card that read, "Do not plug into any device connected to the internet." Jade felt cold all over. This wasn't just weird anymore. It was dangerous. She looked around the station parking lot. Nothing seemed out of place. But after that SUV, she wasn't about to trust anything. She drove home. Her small apartment over the garage smelled like oil and metal. Familiar, safe. She set the folder on her workbench and sat in silence for a long time. Who was the woman in the photo? What was Marvin Hale doing, pretending to be a stranded old man? Why did he vanish again, right in front of her? And more importantly, why her? She wasn't a detective. She wasn't a hacker. She was just a 21-year-old mechanic with a high school diploma and calloused hands. So why leave her the folder? The note echoed in her head. "I knew someone would come for me. Just not you." It sounded almost planned. She picked up the flash drive and stared at it. Then her laptop beeped. An email had come through, but Jade hadn't opened her laptop yet. She frowned. How? She opened the screen. The inbox was already active, a single new message blinking. No subject, no sender, just a time. Tomorrow, 3:30 p.m., the junkyard off Route 5. Come alone. Her skin prickled. She hadn't told anyone what happened. She hadn't even touched her phone. How did whoever this was know? She slammed the laptop shut and backed away like it might explode. This was too much, too fast. But still, something inside her pulled. This wasn't random. That man had chosen her, and the more she thought about it, the more she realized something. He wasn't just running, he was leading her somewhere. The next day, 3:22 p.m. The junkyard off Route 5 was empty except for the sound of creaking metal in the wind. Jade parked behind a rusted-out school bus and waited. Her fingers were clenched tight around her steering wheel. The folder was on the seat beside her, the flash drive in her coat pocket. At 3:30 on the dot, she saw it. A figure stepped out from behind a stack of crushed cars. It wasn't the old man, it was a woman. Late 30s, black jeans, black hoodie, hair tied tight. Jade stepped out slowly. "You sent the message?" The woman nodded. "You have the folder?" Jade hesitated. "Who are you?" The woman didn't answer. She just said, "You're in danger." "So am I." Jade's mouth went dry. "Why me?" The woman stepped closer. "Because you fixed the car." "What was in that car?" "More than you know," the woman said. "And if they find out you have it, you won't survive the week." The Woman in Black and the Billionaire's Secret. Jade stared at the woman in black, heart hammering so loud it echoed in her ears. The air in the junkyard felt heavier than before, like the rusted metal around them could close in at any moment. "You won't survive the week," the woman had just said. Not a threat, a warning. Jade's voice cracked. "Who's after me?" The woman didn't blink. "People who think you now know something you shouldn't. People who've been looking for Marvin Hale for 5 years. "I don't even know him," Jade snapped. "I helped a man fix his car. He disappeared, left a folder, and now you show up acting like I'm in some movie." The woman finally stepped closer, lowering her hood. Her face was sharp, but tired. There was a scar running along her left jawline. She looked like someone who hadn't slept properly in years. "My name's Kira," she said. "I worked for Marvin. I was part of his private security until he vanished." Jade narrowed her eyes. "If you were so close to him, why didn't you get the folder?" Kira looked down. "Because he didn't trust anyone anymore, not after what happened." Jade's voice dropped. "What did happen?" Kira scanned the junkyard before speaking again. "Marvin found something huge, right before he disappeared. A flaw in a national security system, a back door someone built to spy on everyone, government, corporations, regular people. And the deeper he looked, the more dangerous it got. He tried to go public. Days later, 2 of his closest friends were dead. One in a car crash, the other in an apartment fire." Jade's chest tightened. "You think someone killed them?" "I don't think I know." Kira's eyes burned. "Marvin dropped off the map after that, but he always said if he had to run, he'd leave behind a trail for the right person." Jade stepped back, her hand instinctively going to the folder under her coat. "Why me?" Kira studied her for a long moment. "You're not tied to any agency. You're not in tech. You're nobody special." Jade raised her eyebrows. Kira gave a faint, ironic smile. "And that's exactly why. He trusted you. You're invisible to the people chasing him. You're off the radar," Jade scoffed. "Yeah? Not anymore." Kira didn't argue. Instead, she asked, "Do you have the flash drive?" Jade hesitated. Her fingers touched the inside pocket of her jacket, feeling the hard shape. "What's on it?" "Everything. Proof of the surveillance, names, transactions, who funded it, but it's encrypted. Marvin said only someone with clean fingerprints, no digital trail, should hold it until the right time." "And you're saying, that's me?" Jade asked, her voice half shaking, half angry. Kira nodded once. "That drive is a time bomb, and someone out there knows it's in play again." Suddenly, the sound of tires grinding gravel broke the moment. Jade's head jerked toward the entrance. Kira grabbed her arm. "Come on!" They ducked between a stack of crumpled sedans, just as 2 men stepped out of a black SUV, the same kind from the highway. This time they weren't hiding. They wore dark jackets, buzz cuts and earpieces, federal-looking. But Jade had seen enough crime shows to know looks could lie. Kira pulled her through the rows of cars. "We can't run back to your truck. They'll be watching." "Then where?" "There's a storm drain under the bus. Come on." They crawled under the rusted-out school bus. Kira peeled back a metal sheet and revealed a grated opening. Beneath, she pulled it loose and motioned for Jade to go first. Without thinking, Jade dropped down into the narrow concrete tunnel. The air was damp and cold, but safe. A second later, Kira followed and pulled the grate back over them, just as footsteps passed overhead. They stayed silent in the dark for long minutes. Jade could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her throat. Finally, Kira whispered, "They're not going to stop. Not until they find the folder, or destroy whoever has it." Jade leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. "So what do we do?" Kira looked at her, eyes steady in the dim light. "We expose them, but we can't do it alone." Then, "Who?" Kira reached into her pocket and handed Jade a small card. It was torn, faded, but one word was clear. Rayburn. Jade froze. That name, it was on one of the letters in the folder. Kira nodded. Rayburn was Marvin's last contact. A journalist, ex-intelligence. He's been underground for years, but if we find him, he'll know what to do. And you trust him? Kira shrugged. Marvin did. Jade stared at the card. This was insane. She was just a mechanic, a girl, who fixed things with her hands. She never wanted to get pulled into something this big, but somehow it felt like fate had shoved her into the driver's seat. Her fingers tightened around the card. "All right," she said quietly. "Let's find Rayburn. The man named Rayburn, and the trap waiting for them." The card felt heavier in Jade's hand than it should have. Rayburn. No address, no number, just the name, printed in small type, as if it meant nothing. But Jade had seen it before. Inside the folder Marvin left. That wasn't a coincidence. "We don't even know if—" "He's still alive," she whispered, crouched beside Kira in the storm drain. "How do we even find someone that deep underground?" Kira gave a dry smile. "We don't. He finds us." Jade frowned. "That's comforting." But Kira was already crawling forward, leading them deeper into the tunnel. The stench of wet metal and mold closed in around them, but Jade followed anyway. She had no choice anymore. Her quiet world of engines and grease stains was gone. Now she was part of this. They emerged an hour later in a junky auto lot on the edge of town. Kira had a contact there, an ex-military guy named Drew who owed her a few favors too big to ignore. He let them wash up, eat, and rest in the back room of the shop. Then, while Jade tried to breathe, Kira pulled out a burner phone and sent one text to a number she said only Rayburn knew. "Now we wait," Kira said. Jade sat on the edge of a ripped couch. "And if he doesn't answer?" Kira leaned against the wall. "Then we disappear, and we pray." 2 hours later, the reply came, a simple message. "Trust only the man with the red lighter. Warehouse 9, Tucson a.m. That was it. No name, no details. Jade's fingers trembled. "That sounds like a trap." "It probably is," Kira said calmly, "but it's the only move we've got. Warehouse 9, 159. The place looked like it hadn't seen life in decades. Windows shattered, roof caved, walls tagged with graffiti and rust. Jade stayed hidden in the shadows with Kira, both of them scanning every movement. Streetlights flickered behind them, casting long, eerie shadows across the cracked pavement. At exactly 2 a.m., a man stepped out of the shadows on the opposite end of the lot. He walked slowly, no rush, with his hands in his pockets. He wore a worn trench coat and had a grey beard that hadn't been trimmed in months. He looked like someone who lived between places, but then Jade saw it, in his left hand as he lit a cigarette, a red lighter. Kira straightened. "That's him." They approached cautiously. The man didn't move, just watched them. When they got close enough, he spoke in a low voice. "You must be the girl who fixed Marvin's Buick." Jade blinked. "How do you—" "You're holding the folder, aren't you?" he said, eyes sharp. "He wouldn't leave that with anyone unless he meant it." Jade didn't answer. Kira stepped forward. "Are you Rayburn?" The man nodded. "Used to be." He motioned for them to follow him inside. The inside of Warehouse 9 was surprisingly clean. Tables, gear, locked drawers, a few large monitors. It was a temporary hideout, but a well-prepared one. Rayburn sat, cracked his knuckles, and stared at them both. "You have the flash drive?" Jade hesitated. Kira glanced at her, then gave a slow nod. Jade pulled the flash drive from her coat pocket and placed it on the table between them. Rayburn stared at it like it was radioactive. "That little piece of plastic," he said quietly, "has enough truth inside it to take down 6 major intelligence agencies, 3 international corporations, and at least a dozen politicians across 4 continents." Jade's heart stopped. "You're serious?" Rayburn nodded. "Dead serious." He plugged it into a laptop, one that was disconnected from everything, and began working. Lines of code filled the screen. Jade couldn't understand any of it. But then she saw it. Names, files, surveillance footage, documents, emails. Some marked top secret. Some showing blackmail, murders covered up, money trails. She turned away. It was too much. Rayburn worked in silence for nearly 20 minutes. Then he spoke. Marvin wasn't just running. He was trying to finish something. "What?" Jade asked. Rayburn looked at her. "A timed leak. If he vanished, this drive was supposed to go out, but the failsafe didn't trigger. Someone shut it down. That's why he left it behind, for someone who could bring it to me." "Me," Jade said, swallowing hard. Rayburn nodded. "But why not send it himself?" Kira asked. "Why vanish?" Rayburn leaned back. "Because he found something even more dangerous. Something he didn't want me to know. A project called Vanguard." Kira stiffened. "I've heard of that." "What is it?" Jade whispered. Rayburn hesitated. "A predictive AI, built not to monitor people, but to control them. Designed to push stock markets, votes, even media headlines in real time, hidden in plain sight, and it's almost complete." "Complete?" Jade gasped. Rayburn looked tired. "And if it goes live, democracy, free thought, real journalism, they'll all be illusions." A sudden noise, metal clanging outside. Kira's hand went to her weapon. Rayburn stood alert. "They found us." Jade's breath caught. "But how?" Rayburn grabbed the flash drive. "We were too loud. The drive pinged a signal, just for a second." Kira pulled Jade to the back door. "We have to move, now." Rayburn stuffed the flash drive into a hollow book. "If they catch us, don't let them take this. Whatever happens, get it to the public, all of it." "Where will we go?" Jade cried. Rayburn opened the back exit. "To the last place they'd expect, Marvin's safe house." Marvin's safe house, and the truth he buried, rain, fell in thin sheets as they sped down the back roads, headlights off. The old van Kira hotwired coughed and rattled, but it ran. Jade sat in the back, gripping the book with the flash drive inside like her life depended on it. Because now, it actually did. Rayburn drove, fast but focused. "We've got 15 minutes before they track us again." Jade's heart pounded. "How do they even know where we are? You said you used a safe laptop." "I did," Rayburn replied, jaw tight. "But Vanguard learns. It doesn't need GPS. It reads patterns, every click, every movement, every heat signature from a camera. We've already left a trail." Kira stared out the window, gun ready on her lap. "We have one shot. If we don't get to Marvin's place before they catch us." She didn't finish. Jade didn't need her to. They arrived at dawn. The safe house was hidden deep in the woods, behind a crumbling wooden gate marked private property, no trespassing. But it wasn't a cabin or a bunker. It was a weather-beaten church. Jade blinked. "This is it?" Rayburn nodded. He called it sanctuary. He used to say, "If I disappear, look where people stop listening and start praying." Inside, the church was abandoned but dry. Stained glass windows were cracked, but still colorful. There was dust everywhere, except for one corner near the altar where the floor was scrubbed clean. Rayburn walked over, knelt, and tapped the wood. Thunk, thunk, hollow. He pried open the floorboard, revealing a trapdoor. Underneath, a small room, lights, batteries, documents, and photos. Jade stepped down slowly, eyes widening, pictures of her. of her auto shop, of her walking home, of her eating lunch on the curb. "What is this?" she whispered, panic rising in her chest. Rayburn looked down at her, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. "He'd been watching you for years." Jade stumbled back. "No. Why? I don't even know him." Kira remained silent. Rayburn pulled a faded photo from the wall. Marvin, younger, standing next to a smiling woman holding a toddler. He handed it to Jade. Her knees buckled, because the woman was her mother. And the baby, her... No, Jade murmured, voice cracking. He knew my mom?" Rayburn nodded. "He loved her." Jade shook her head. "But she never mentioned him, never once." "She couldn't," Rayburn said softly. "She died. Because of him." Jade's blood ran cold. "She was with Marvin when he discovered—" "Vanguard," Rayburn continued. "She begged him to stay quiet, to disappear, but he refused. When the first leak went out, she was targeted. She died in a hit-and-run that was no accident." Jade fell to her knees. The room spun. Kira knelt beside her. "Marvin wanted to tell you. But how do you explain that the truth killed your mother? So he waited and watched until you were ready. And now," Rayburn said gently, "you're the only one who can finish what he started." Jade's throat burned. "Why me?" "Because you're the only one with no digital leash, no record. You can vanish, like he did. But I don't." "You want this," she snapped, tears running down her cheeks. "I fix cars, not governments." Rayburn placed a hand on her shoulder. "But your hands fix what others abandon. That's why he chose you." Suddenly a bang outside, then another. Kira bolted up. "They found us." Rayburn grabbed the flash drive. "There's a transmitter in the bell tower. If I can get a signal out to the whistleblower network, the files will go live. But someone has to hold them off." Kira didn't hesitate. "I'll take the front." Jade stood too. "Then I'm going up with you." Rayburn stopped her. "No, you can't be seen. If they ID you, you're done. You vanish after this." "I'm not leaving you," Jade said firmly. But before anyone could argue again, bullets tore through the front door. Kira rolled behind a pew and fired back. "Go, go!" Rayburn and Jade sprinted up the old staircase, 2 steps at a time, until they reached the bell tower. Rayburn slammed the transmitter into a power pack and jammed the flash drive into its port. Static. Then a green light blinked. "Signals." "Live!" he shouted. "Files are moving!" Jade could hear the gunfire below. Yells, screams. A voice shouted from outside on a loudspeaker. "Surrender the device, or you all die!" Rayburn looked at her, eyes tired but filled with peace. "Marvin was your father. He died a month ago, cancer. He asked me to tell you one thing." Jade froze. "What?" Rayburn smiled. "Don't run from who you are." And then, boom, the front wall exploded. Smoke rushed into the tower, screams below. Rayburn shoved the book into Jade's hands. "Climb out the back," he yelled. "Go through the woods. There's a bike hidden under the chapel. But I'll stall them." Jade hesitated, then turned and ran. The last thing she saw as she slipped through the back was Rayburn, standing in front of the shattered doorway, hands raised, smiling. The girl in the garage, and the legacy she never saw coming. Jade didn't stop running. Branches tore at her arms. Mud soaked her shoes. But she didn't stop. Not when she heard gunshots behind her. Not when the bell tower went up in flames. Not when the woods swallowed the sound of everything she had just lost. She ran like her life depended on it. Because it did. At the edge of the forest, buried under leaves and brush, she found it. The bike. Old, rusty. But it started after 3 hard kicks. She straddled the seat, hands shaking, and tore off down the dirt path as the sky turned from black to blue. Behind her, the safe house burned. But ahead of her was something more powerful than fire. The truth. 1 week later, somewhere in Detroit, no one knew where she'd gone. Not the news, not the agents who stormed the woods, not even Kira, who'd somehow escaped the shootout and left behind a single message on a burner phone. You did good. Stay dark. Stay smart. The files Rayburn uploaded hit every major outlet. By morning, world's most powerful AI uncovered. Top secret program used to manipulate public opinion. Black girls escape sparks, global whistleblower wave. They didn't name her because they didn't know her, just the grainy photo of a shadowy figure fleeing a collapsing church tower with a book under her arm. They called her the Ghost. Mechanic. But Jade? She was in the one place no one would look. Back at her auto shop. It had burned too, though not from fire, from silence. Customers stopped coming. People whispered. Government men had come sniffing, asking questions, leaving warnings. She kept the closed sign up for weeks, and in the quiet, she rebuilt. Not the business, not yet. Herself. She taped the old photo of her mother and Marvin to the inside of her locker. She stared at it every morning before pulling out her tools. She didn't cry anymore. She didn't scream. She just remembered. Marvin's words echoed in her head. Don't run from who you are. And for the first time in her life, she truly understood who that was. Not just a girl with calloused hands and a quiet smile. Not just someone who fixed cars. But someone who rebuilt what the world tried to bury. 3 months later, one final visitor. It was dusk when the knock came. Not on the front door, but on the back one. The one only friends used. Jade wiped her hands, stepped outside, and froze. A man in a tailored suit stood by a Blacktown car. His face was unfamiliar, but he held something in his hand, a metal briefcase. I'm not buying, Jade said flatly. He smiled politely. I'm not selling. She crossed her arms. The man set the case down and opened it slowly. Inside was a thick folder, legal papers, blueprints, photographs, and a sealed envelope. This, he said gently, was left in your name, by Marvin Hale. Jade's breath caught. She took the envelope first. Inside, a letter, written in Marvin's handwriting. My girl, if you're reading this, it means you survived. It means the truth is out there, and it means I finally did one thing right in my life, trusting you. I watched you grow from a distance. Every time you picked up a wrench, every time you helped someone who couldn't pay, I saw your mother. In you. I'm sorry I didn't come back. I was scared you'd hate me. Maybe you still do, but if you can forgive me, then use what's in this case to make something better. Not just a shop, a safe place for kids like you, for truth like ours. Love, Dad. Jade couldn't hold the tears back this time. The man cleared his throat and gently handed her one last document. He left everything to you. Not just money, not just tools, but rights to something called the Hale Foundation. Jade looked up confused. It was a hidden trust, built to protect whistleblowers, fund grassroots justice work, and offer sanctuary to people targeted by systems too big to fight alone. She blinked. You mean like a safe house? He nodded. A network. You could grow it. Quietly, powerfully. Jade looked down at her greasy hands, at her chipped nails. She thought of the church, the files, the blood, the legacy, and she finally smiled. I fix broken things, she said, and the world's never been more broken. She took the case and walked back inside. The man watched. Her go then whispered to no one in particular. Looks like the ghost mechanic just found her voice. Epilogue. 1 year later, an old church in rural Mississippi lights up at night now. Its stained glass repaired, its trapdoor reinforced, its pews filled, not with prayers but with plans. Young hackers, journalists, ex-agents, runaways, all working in the shadows. All under one silent banner, the Hale Project. And at its center, a young black woman with calloused hands, a quiet smile, and a photo of a mother and father taped above her workbench. The end.